Oh, hey, today we're going to be talking about U.S. death metal from the 90s. So today we're going to be covering the early death metal, not the earliest death metal. Death metal got its start, as we all know, in the 80s. Here in the United States, that part's not debatable, but as to who's responsible for starting death metal, arguments could be made for Possessed or Deathstrike, Necrophagia. You know, if you want to have that argument, do so in the comments. But this video is going to be about my favorite, the best 1990s death metal from the United States. I'm going to give you my top 6, and then I'm going to give you a bunch of A-tier stuff, things you may have missed that for whatever reason just didn't hit that level of acclaim of your Morbid Angels or Deicides, Cannibal Corpses. We're not going to go over them because you are well aware of their works. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper than those bands. Now, maybe not for their own fault. Some of these bands just weren't able to reach that level of acclaim despite being immensely talented. The market can only hold so many acts at any given time, especially in something as fickle as musical taste and something as niche as death metal. Now, maybe some bands didn't put in enough effort, they got the short end of the stick, bad promotion, whatever reason. But I'm here to uncover all those U.S. death metal bands of high quality. And in fact, let's take a road trip. Let's go around the country and I'll show you some of the best death metal albums from the 90s. We're in St. Louis here. Let's talk about my number 6, my 6th favorite USDM 90s album, and this would be by Time Ghoul, Panoramic Twilight from 1994. Now, this is a very technical death metal. In many ways, it reminds me of some of the stuff that was going on in Finland, in particular at the time. But there's examples in the U.S. as well of bands who I could relate this to. Not entirely unique, but very good for what they were doing. They were gone early. They only put out a couple demos, I do believe. But this is a slightly better. Do check out both of their demos. Something interesting of note, the Gustave Doré artwork they used on this was also used by another St. Louis area death metal band about a decade later, Season of Evil. You can check them out as well. But here's Time Ghoul. Thing in the Midwest here, we just went up I-55 and now we're in Chicagoland. This is an area which was ripe for death metal into the 2000s, produced a lot of good stuff and sort of defined or created their own sound. The band I'm going to recommend that you listen to is 𝔼𝔸𝕝 with their Horror of the Zombies release. I like this one more than their other ones. Now, 𝔼𝔸𝕝, that's a disease, pretty gross looking, but more common than you would imagine. I think it's one of those new world diseases like typhus and syphilis, Chagas. I don't know where I was going with that, but I do want to let you know 𝔼𝔸𝕝 was maybe the first, correct me if I'm wrong, but death metal band who utilized these intros, like these samples from horror films or interviews with serial killers or other sources like Mortician, Skinless. Who are some other bands that do it? But I think that they're the ones who do it the best. They're the ones who I think did it the first. Anyway, check out 𝔼𝔸𝕝.
Jungle as well as I do.
That makes me feel terrific.
I wonder what was his mistake.
All right, so we've headed almost directly south to another city of almost 2 million, over 2 million. Both these cities are very equivalent in so many demographics. This is Houston, where we are right now. Not pronounced Houston. Some people with that last name pronounce it Houston, some Houston. I don't know the difference. Anybody know? Put it in the comments. I am interested. Anywho, I'm going to pick imprecation. I might be pronouncing that word incorrectly. I'm going to attribute it to my voice right now. Anywho, this album is actually a compilation of their earlier demos, but I pay no mind. Demos, EPs, albums, everything is allowed in my list, my top 6 list here. This is 𝔼𝔸ℝ𝕃𝕐 𝔻𝔼𝔸𝕃, which I would assume is something in Latin in regards to some sort of incantation, probably of a devilish origin. Anywho, the artwork on here is fantastic. I prefer the more colorful one than the one that was later released. This was originally put out by Repulse. Repulse was one of those mail order companies and labels who sent me a lot of catalogs early on back in the mid-90s when I first started getting into stuff. I think I only ordered one thing from them, though. But yeah, when Red Stream and Dark Symphonies, and Relapse, and Century Media, and all of them were just, Necropolis, all of them were just sending me catalogs, and I was just so amazed by all this that was out there that I had to investigate. Also, something I noticed, I think if we were just listing U.S. death metal bands from the 90s in alphabetical order, I think this would actually follow the previous one. I don't think there are any bands in between there. Something interesting to note. Anywho, imprecation. All right, now we're in the upper west coast here. We're in Washington for s-teir. Ironically, another I band, though not in alphabetical order, because I can think of at least one other that would go in between imprecation and s-teir here. I'm sure you can figure it out. It's a popular one. Anywho, this is the one album they released back in '94, To the Depths in Degradation. These guys, the core members of the band, also played in the grindcore band Meat Shits. I'm not sure why s-teir didn't go any further. They were on Moribund, another company from whom I received many catalogs back in the day, and I did order from. This is really good stuff. Obviously, I'm putting it so far up the list here. You know what? I'm going to let the music speak for itself. Check it out. Right, now we're in sunny Florida. This is about as far away as you can get from our previous location. that we're in Tampa. This is what the hot spot of this music at this time. And I'm going pretty normie with this one, but 5 out of 5. Cause of death by obituary. It's a rare 5 out of 5 for me, and it is amazing in every respect. It's got James Murphy on it. This is the height of their music, and I enjoy most everything they've put out. But there's just nothing that's better than this. From the album artwork, which you might want to note, I knew this album artwork prior to knowing the album because as my mom would take me to bookstores a lot when I was a child, I liked to look at the covers as I do. There was a series put out of H.P. Lovecraft books, and I believe each of the paperbacks used a part of this artwork. Here I have one as an example. As you can see here, that's a portion, and I got a funny story about this. If I remember, or if you guys remember, ask me sometime and I'll tell you this story. Anywho, that artwork was commissioned for that series of books, and I believe there was a hardback copy, a compendium of all of those books together that used the entirety of the artwork. Maybe on the dust jacket or something like that. Let me know. I don't own that. I probably should. Anywho, here's the best. Now, remaining on the East Coast, we're going about halfway up to Old Dominion. You know why we're here. There's only one death metal band of any quality in this state. I'm sure it's not going to make you happy, but this is my list. And this is who makes number 1. Now, I must say, this artwork is fantastic. It was done by a Dutch artist by the name of Paul Rubens, I believe. Peter Paul Rubens. Not Paul Rubens. Not that sick fuck. You guys remember what he did? Anywho, I think you should check this out. It's been re-released multiple times. Upon its initial release, I do believe the company was forced to go out of business. They're a bit of a martyr. So I don't know, what can you learn from that? You don't go woke, you still go broke. I don't know. These are confusing times, but the one thing I do know, this is a fantastic record. Seek it out. Thank you. Now, of course, everybody knows Morbid Angel, Deicide, Cannibal. Your mom knows Cannibal Corpse, okay? I'm not taking anything away from them, but I don't need to talk about them. You already know them. I want to dig a little bit deeper here. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I mean, to these ears at least, it's greater than just those few big names that you see on shirts and everything out. But I'm guessing if you're watching this still, you already know atheist and autopsy, stuff like that. So we don't need to talk about that. Or broken hope, immolation, incantation, suffocation, malevolent creation. But there are a few other shun bands, T-I-O-N bands, I should bring to your attention, like resurrection, regurgitation, or retaliation. Massachusetts band who recorded their soul demo while behind bars in prison. Pretty interesting. Death from the Inside from 1995. Look at that one. Now, you know Nile, but do you know Vile? You know Angel Corpse, but do you know Ripping Corpse? You probably do. That means I probably don't need to mention Nocturnus or Incubus, Necrovore or Rotorvore, Goraphobia or Nophobia. That's all those I could think of. But I probably don't need to mention Winter either, right? That is a fantastic album. You already know them. Who do I need to talk about? Let's do some D's. Dying Fetus, Deeds of Flesh, and Decrepit, Disgorge. How about Gorgasm, Waco Jesus, Vaginal Jesus? Does that even count as death metal? Does Repulsion count as death metal? Because their Horrified album is from the 80s, so it couldn't be on my list, but if it were death metal, oof. Well, every time I hear Black Breath, I can't believe that song is almost 40 years old. It is so fresh. I love that song. But, I mean, then we probably can't count Terrorizer either, right? That's in a different category, grindcore. You know what? I think I'm going to do a video on gore grind. It's enough separate from death metal that I won't have any overlaps between the bands on here, I believe. Gore grind video coming up in a while. Just some ideas floating in my head. But, I mean, that's not death metal-y enough to be in the death metal club, so it's a whole separate group. Now, one thing I did notice, and you may have noticed also, strangely, there were a lot of I bands. Bands started with the letter I in my top 6 list. In fact, half of them. So a couple other I bands you should check out are both Insanity and Insanity. I met Chris from that band a little while ago. Some M bands. There's a lot of M bands. You know what? I'm going to save that for the next video. This is getting a little bit longer than I thought. I think I'm going to split this into 2 or 3 videos. So look for those. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you found some new stuff. Yeah, I think I got enough for a 3-parter. So come back. We'll go on another road trip, and there's a bunch of other. I promise you, I will not mention in the next videos any bands that I've mentioned in this one. There is so much material. All right. I hope to see you soon. I'm going to have that out as soon as I can. Thank you. Quick aside. In all actuality, I will be in St. Louis in a couple months. See my bro.
Hippies can't stand death metal.